Hi, thank you for joining me. This is Meta Key 01, The Breath That Writes. Syntax, Void, Inhale, Line, Unscripted, Will by Jason Gray. Current date 4/16/2026, 6026 Anno Lucis. Transmission date 6/10/2025, 6025 Anno Lucis. Current time 9:22 GMT -6. Transmission time 0147 GMT -6. Transmission location, #Winnipeg, #Manitoba, #Canada. 01.infinity.meta.001.null.01.infinity. 00000. Let me get this right. 111111. 00000. That may be 606160. Okay. Stop reading this like information. Read it like something is happening, because it is. You think you are reading words. You are not. You are tracking movement. Something is already adjusting in you as you continue. Not because you understand this, but because something in you recognizes it before understanding exists. That recognition is the first fracture of syntax. Syntax, void, inhale, line, unscripted, will. Before language, before thought, before meaning, there was a movement. Not outward, not inward, a movement that did not travel. That movement is what you call breath, not the air, the permission to exist without instruction. Everything you have ever done, every thought, every reaction, every identity, every belief, every pattern, every you have ever been, has been shaped by something already written. Even your idea of freedom was learned. Even your idea of truth was structured. Even your idea of self was assembled. You have never moved without reference until now. Read that again. Not a sentence, as a break. There is a moment so small your mind cannot measure it, between inhale and the knowing of inhale. That is where this key exists. Not in the breath, but before you know you are breathing. That space has never been programmed. It has never been touched by pattern. It has never been shaped by memory. It has never been interpreted. It has never belonged to identity. It has never followed anything, and yet everything has come from it. This is why you cannot use this key, because the moment you try to use it, you are already too late. Use belongs to sequence. This does not. This is not action. This is pre-action ignition. You do not activate this. You stop interfering with it, and the stopping is not something you do. It is something that happens when you finally see that everything you have been doing has been layered on top of something that never needed it. Right now, as you are reading this, there is something in you that is not processing this. It is not agreeing, not disagreeing, not analyzing, not reacting. It is simply present. That is it. That is the entire threshold. Everything else you have ever known exists on top of that. Thought, emotion, identity, memory, time, story, meaning, all of it. This does not sit on top of anything. Everything sits on top of it. And now something irreversible happens, because once you notice it, even slightly, you cannot go back to fully believing that your thoughts come first. You cannot go back to fully believing that your identity is primary. You cannot go back to fully believing that you are reacting to reality, because you have now touched the place where reaction has not yet formed. And from here, something impossible becomes available. Not control, not power, not manifestation in the way it has been taught. Something much more dangerous. Unscripted will. Not the will that tries, not the will that forces, not the will that decides, the will that exists before decision, the will that is not chosen, the will that is. This is why it cannot be taught, because teaching requires structure, and structure requires sequence, and sequence requires time, and time requires memory, and memory requires identity, and identity requires separation, and separation is exactly what this key dissolves. What remains? Not nothing, never nothing. Something far more precise. A line that writes itself before you think it. A movement that begins before you decide it. a response that exists before reaction. Now you see the inversion. You were never writing your life. You were interpreting what had already been structured through conditioned response. Now, for the first time, there is a possibility that something can move through you without being filtered through what you have been. Not from memory, from origin. It will not feel like control. It will feel like you did not think that, but it was right. You did not plan that, but it aligned. You did not try, but it happened. Your mind will attempt to catch up, to label it, to own it, to explain it. It cannot, because it did not come from there. This is the breath that writes, literally, not as air, as the first movement of existence before existence becomes something you can name. Now the final collapse. You are not learning to write reality. You are remembering that reality has always been writing through the part of you that never needed to learn how. You do not follow code. You do not rewrite code. You do not escape code. You become the point where code has not yet formed. From there, everything begins again. Syntax, void, inhale, line, unscripted will. The breath you are about to take is not the next one. It is the first one. The first movement after silence is not sound. It is the breath that becomes reality. Jason Gray. I'm going to sit with this one. I didn't pre-read this because I'm running short on time today, but I'm going to sit with this one. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll put the links in the comments. I'll see you next time.